Trey, put your hips into it.
Yes, no shame.
Had to get in our quick little dance party. Trey was really into it.
I felt real pretty with those moves.
Good morning from Angkor Wat in Siem Reap, Cambodia. It's currently 5:30 a.m. and we're standing just outside of the Angkor Wat temple watching sunrise over the lake. We woke up at 4 a.m. to make sure we could arrive early for sunrise.
Do you hear that?
Yeah.
I'm so spooked out. The temple opens at 6 a.m., but in the meantime, if you're on a tour like we are, then your guide is going to talk about a lot of the history and the stories that these magnificent structures tell. So we're going to kind of regurgitate all of the information that he's giving us, and hopefully it all makes sense at the end, and hopefully we say everything right, because some of my notes, I don't know if I'm going to say it right, if I'm being honest.
And hopefully you learned something.
And you learn something, yeah. If you have your own transportation, you can also explore the temple at your own pace. However, be aware the sunrise here at Angkor Wat is definitely one of the top things to do, and especially at this temple, because you can see the reflection of the water, the sun changing behind the temple. But we are definitely not the only ones with this idea, nor the only tour group that came here. All of our friends.
Join us as we explore one of the most spectacular landmarks on the entire planet, Angkor Wat.
The temple was built with the sunrise in mind, and the king who ordered the construction said that if the sun is up, then the kingdom is up. So throughout the morning, you'll see several different colors as the sun rises, from rusty reds to lavender purples to the fiery orange color.
What do you think?
This is beautiful. I think it's been like 5 different shades.
Yeah.
One quick note that I thought was super interesting, there are 2 times every year that the sun rises perfectly in line with the largest Hector in the center of Angkor Wat on March 21st and September 21st, which is a very special time to watch the sunrise here. The only way this view could get better, I think, is if we were in one of the hot air balloons, but I don't think Trey would have let me do that.
Nope. Too expensive, too high.
Angkor Wat is a masterpiece of ancient architecture and engineering with a history that dates back to the 12th century. The name Angkor Wat translates to King City Pagoda, and it was originally built as a Hindu temple in the Khmer Empire. Later, it was converted to Buddhism, which is why you'll see traces of both religions in the temple's design.
Over time, moss and termites have damaged much of the structure, and in early years of tourism, oil from human fingers touching all of the carvings has removed much of the red and yellow color. Both red and yellow are considered lucky colors in Buddhism and Hinduism, which is why you'll see traces of those colors in certain places.
The construction of Angkor Wat was a monumental undertaking. It took over 300,000 workers to build over a period of 30 years. They brought in all of the required supplies from the north side of Siem Reap, over 60 kilometers away from the temple location. To transport these supplies, the workers used elephants during the dry season and bamboo floats during the rainy season. It was a massive logistical operation, but had lots of intentional meaning, including the position of the temple during sunrise and 9 towers that were built within the temple walls. 9 was considered a very lucky number, but today only 5 of the towers remain due to lightning damage. If you look really closely, you can see the lightning rods installed to protect the remaining towers. When finished, the temple's impressive presence was complemented by a 5-kilometer moat that was built around the entire complex. The moat had various religious meanings and uses for ceremonies, as well as protecting the city from invasions. But during the 15th century, the moat overflowed, leading to the evacuation of the city populated by over 1 million people.
The Angkor Wat temple is truly massive and has several different sections, each with its own unique layout and purpose. You'll find separate libraries for the king and queen, holy pools, and a tall tower in the center. During your tour, you can climb to the tallest tower and see the views, but we stayed on the main level because getting up to where we were was pretty steep in general.
If you were like me and a little bit wigged out by heights, then the main temple of Angkor Wat is probably not going to be your place to thrive. The stairs are really, really steep.
Throughout the temple, you will also see statues of Singa and Naga. In Cambodian mythology, Singa and Naga are believed to protect the country from malevolent forces and symbolize power and authority.
In more recent history, during the Khmer Rouge regime in Cambodia, Angkor Wat was closed to the public. Additionally, the Khmer Rouge used Angkor Wat as a military headquarters and stored munitions in some of the temple's buildings. As a result, the temple suffered damage during this time, including the loss of some of the Buddha statues and bullet holes visible throughout the temple structure.
This is stop number 1 today of 4. We're going to do 2 temples, and then we're going to break for lunch, and then we're going to do 2 more temples. As you saw, our day started at 4:30, and we didn't arrive here until 5:30. So that gives you kind of an idea of how long it takes to go buy tickets, and then arrive here in time for sunrise. But now, the sun is finally up. So we're going to head to stop number 2.
Next up is the Bayon Temple, which was built
200 years, I think, after the Angkor Wat temple that we were at earlier was built. So we've been walking through here and trying to admire some of the sites. He's been giving us a little bit of detail as to the pictographs right here. I call them pictographs, but I don't think that's probably what they're actually called. If you know, then leave a comment down below as to what it is. But in any case, they've got depictions of different conflicts. There's one with the Vietnamese, there's one with the Chinese, depicting these huge battles for this territory. And it's really interesting to learn the history here. I thought it was actually older history than it actually is.
So opposite to the first temple that we went to, Angkor Wat, this was originally a Buddhist temple and was converted to Hindu. So you can see inside there was a few things that he pointed out. There was a Buddha, for example, that was sitting in the center and along the wall, but it was removed to put something else. I don't know that I want to say exactly what it meant on camera. Something of Hinduism. How about that?
There you go.
This temple where we are now, this is in the exact middle of the old city, which made it the perfect location for the capital of the Khmer Empire. It's known for its impressive towers, and you'll see why in a minute. The temple consists of 54 towers. Each of these towers contains 4 faces carved into the stone. These 54 towers with 4 faces each mean that there are 216 faces at this temple, and there's significance behind these numbers. If you add 5 and 4 together, it's 9, the lucky number that we talked about at the last temple, and if you add 2, 1, and 6 together, then it equals 9 too. They make everything work. They make all of the math work together, and it all fits together, and it's like this big old puzzle that is just beautifully put together.
Also, you probably can't hear with the sound of the chainsaws running behind me, or I guess in front of me technically right now, and they're doing that to remove branches so that they don't fall on the temple and harm the temple. In any case, there are bats that live inside, so if you're hearing anything that's squeaky, there's a lot of bats in there. I was going to try to get some footage, but it's kind of dark, and you can't really see them. You can barely see them with the naked eye, but there's a lot of bats in this temple. So if you're scared of bats, this might not be the temple for you. Okay, so we just grabbed a quick bite to eat at a little restaurant here within Angkor Wat. We only got like spring rolls, and we were chatting with friends that we've made here, so apologies for not having a lot of footage, but one thing that we will have some footage of is the next temple. You ready? I'm ready.
Yeah? This is temple number 3. Like, this is mumble number 5.
No.
Temple number 3.
As Hannah said, we are at temple number 3, which is the Ta Prohm temple, I believe. It's a little bit of a walk back into the woods, so we're on our way as a group back there now, and we're gonna check it out.
It's deafening.
Bugs are loud here.
Everywhere. If you do a scheduled tour like this, I feel like the biggest tip that we can recommend is bringing lots of water, because there's only been a few times that we've been able to stop and purchase water, so water is a must.
Also, I believe I've heard monkeys a couple times. We've seen some monkeys through the window. Not Hannah. Actual monkeys, not Hannah.
So this temple was built by the same king that built the second temple that we went to earlier today, and he built it for his mother. How kind. And then he also built a neighboring bigger temple for his father, and they were both meant to be kind of universities for Buddhism. So they were used for mathematics and all of those kinds of things, and not only were temples used for religious purposes and praying and all of that, it was also used for education. So the more you know.
Unlike many of the other temples in the Angkor Wat complex, Ta Prohm was left in a largely unrestored state, with trees and other vegetation growing throughout the temple, which makes it incredibly unique.
It is warm. folks.
It is burning
It
out
is
here.
warm. So what he said was little parakeets had pooed and then these trees grew. I don't know if that's correct, but that's what he told us. So that's what I'm saying is correct because he's the guide. I'm not. So there are all these beautiful trees within these temples, and I think that's the most beautiful part. I don't know that I've ever seen anything like this. Another unique design about these temples is in certain areas they were intentionally designed to have impressive acoustics. These acoustically impressive areas were likely designed to enhance religious and cultural activities that took place within these certain temples, and there's one here in the garden, so we had to check it out.
Earlier, our guide was talking about the things around here, and he mentioned tigers and cobras. And he mentioned it in a way that was almost alarmingly casual. I guess it's kind of one thing, like if you're like us and you're from the States, you're probably not used to thinking about a tiger being in the wild or a cobra being in the wild. But supposedly there are cobras everywhere here in the mornings.
He said it was like they were everywhere, that's why we come later in the day, like so casually. I was like,
Yeah, if I saw a cobra, I don't think I'd be super casual. I like snakes, but that one's just a bit too big and a bit too venomous for my taste.
The temple's ruined type state, combined with the lush vegetation that's overtaken it and the animals roaming around in the morning, really gives Ta Prohm a unique and otherworldly feel, which funny enough has led it to being nicknamed the Tomb Raider Temple after the movie was filmed there a couple decades ago.
looks like we're wrapping up at this temple and we'll head to the last temple right now. Here we are.
We're walking up to Buntai Kade, and there's a band playing. You'll see a lot of these bands throughout Cambodia. The players are locals who were injured during the Khmer Rouge War, and they learn to play instruments in order to get tips. If you have some cash on hand, consider giving them a donation, not just because, you know, they were injured, but because they're also talented. They're very good at what they do, and the music's great.
Trey, put your hips into it.
Just no shame.
Had to get in our quick little dance party. Trey was really into it.
I felt real pretty with those moves.
The Buntai Kade Temple was built in the late 12th and early 13th centuries, and is one of the last great temples constructed during the Angkor Wat period.
There is very little restoration to this temple, and it was originally built as a monastery. The temple is relatively small compared to some of the others in the area and the others that we visited today, but the features are very intricate and the carvings are so detailed, and we're by ourselves. There's not really many people here, which is nice compared to the other temples, which I'm sure are very busy right now. This is a nice change of pace.
Yeah, it's a great change of pace.
And it's all one level, Trey's favorite.
Yes. That first temple was a little too steep for me.
So this temple was also built by the same king as the second and the third temple, and if you're sensing a trend, it seemed like every 5 years he was building another temple, even if the one before hadn't been finished yet. This one also originally was surrounded by water, but if you can't tell from how sweaty I am, there is a very rare chance that there is any water around this. It is very, very warm. There's no water to be found except for a tiny little pond over there, so I guess we could count that as water, but this whole thing used to be surrounded, and I imagine it was so beautiful back then. Overall, this day has been jam-packed of history, new friends, beautiful sights, and lots of sunshine. Our biggest recommendation for those looking to book this trip is to make the most of a 3-day pass by hiring a guide for the first day to learn loads of information about Angkor Wat, and then using a tuk-tuk or motorbike to explore the rest of the complex by yourself for the remaining days. We hope you enjoyed this video, and like, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you in the next one.